Listen, are you tired of your landlord? Are you having issues with your landlord? Are you in disputes with your landlord? So I wanted to make this video to help you guys understand how to create a win-win situation when it comes to your landlord. Because a lot of times, right, and this is what made me make this video. A lot of times when you are renting a property, you feel like the landlord has the upper hand. You feel like the landlord has the power. You don't understand that you have rights, which we're going to get into. And when this relationship becomes toxic, it can make your living situation undesirable, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not getting along with the landlord, and this is where you live, this is where your family lives, and that's just not right. So we're gonna jump into it. I want to give you guys a few tips. If you are tired of your landlord, I want to give you a few tips on how to create a win-win situation. So one is paying on time. And that may seem like the obvious thing. Okay, you have to pay your rent on time. However, there can be situations where you are in a financial hardship. There can be situations where you're having issues with the condition of the property. There can be situations where you were paying late, but you did not communicate that with the landlord, or whatever the case may be. But those are just a few examples. So by paying on time, you have to always consider, plays devil advocate, and put yourself in that person's shoes, right? So if you were a landlord, or if you plan on becoming a landlord, one thing that you want to do is get your rent money every single month. Because not only, a lot of times what people have to understand is landlords use that money. A lot of times people think landlords are rich. Landlords are using that money to pay for the mortgage, repairs, insurance, taxes. They have to use that cash flow to actually pay the bills on that property if they still owe a mortgage and have other housely expenses, right? Sometimes landlords do not have the money because they're not utilizing that money properly. So when it comes time to make a big repair, they do not have the funds, or what we would call CapEx, repairing the roof, replacing the HVAC system. Things that you know are going to at least cost you $5,000 or more can wipe out a landlord profit. So when you're paying on time, that gives the landlord the opportunity to not only upkeep the property better, but to help you guys' relationship. Number two is communicating respectfully. So looking at it from the tenant's perspective, if a tenant is not happy in a property, if a tenant is being mistreated, you have to remember your rights as a tenant. And sometimes you do have to stand up for yourself. But if it's a situation where you don't have the money, the landlord is mistreating you, then now you have to stand up for yourself. You want to know your tenant's rights. You do want to understand that, you could pitch up your money in escrow if a property is unlivable, is in unlivable conditions. You can call L&I on a landlord if you have to, and they do not have the right to evict you. They do not have the right to threaten you. So communicating respectfully is super important, because I want to get back to that. Yes, you have to stand up for yourself. Yes, you have rights. But communicating respectfully is important, because sometimes people don't understand. Some landlords have thousands of properties. And yes, most of them, when they get to that level, they have property management to help with the operation. But at the same time, depending on the situation and depending on the repair that may be needed or the conversation that may need to be had, can depend on where you are in that line of tenants. Because this is now a business, right? If we go wait in the store and we waiting in a line to pay for our items, we have to wait behind somebody. So depending on the severity of your situation, the landlord might not get right back to you. Now, if it's a situation where you're in financial hardship, then you want to communicate respectfully. Because one thing I'm going to tell you, a landlord will be more reluctant to hear, something came up or I'm late on the rent, I don't have the money, but I can make a payment on this date, versus not saying anything at all, avoiding everything, and not communicating, or even when you're communicating your needs and your issues, communicate respectfully. Because people are more likely to want to do business the right way, and it leaves them a good impression on you when you do it respectfully. So not only that, you can really communicate your needs. You can really express yourself and explain what is actually happening in your rental property. So man, like I said, the last one is know your rights. As a tenant, if you are being mistreated, know your rights. Know what you can do. Because the thing about it is, once L&I comes out to the property, they're going to give their landlord X amount of time to fix whatever issues that's going on in the property. So that's you pushing back. Have a conversation. If you had to put your money in escrow, you don't have to tell the landlord, you're putting the money in escrow. So know your rights. Definitely protect yourself. But also understand the moral of this whole video is understanding that it worked on both sides. So the more that both people work together, the better the outcome is gonna be for both parties involved. And this is why, just to end this video, your credit matters. Why do your credit matter? Because if you're in a situation where you just in a lose-lose situation, you gonna want to get up out of there. You ain't even gonna want to go back and forth with the landlord. Once your lease is up, you gonna want to get up out of there. So make sure that we are creating win-win situations when it comes to our living situation, because our family lives there, and we want to make sure they are safe and secure as possible. All right, y'all.